with the first management mistake of not having a clear role and responsibilities, or basically not having clear expectations on what the assistant can expect. Hey there, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Now, my goal set after this video is to walk you through what are the top common management mistakes that you might be making when you're working with your virtual assistant. Now, if this is your first time on my channel, my name is Lai Lacaba. I've been working from home since I was 15 years old and now run my own virtual assistant agency here in the Philippines. And I post videos every Sunday and Thursday on how to work from home and how to have a business from home. So make sure to hit the subscribe button right there so you don't miss any of my videos. Now, one of the key things that people usually forget is after going through the whole recruitment route of getting a virtual assistant comes the actual work part, which is managing and making sure that they have what they need to be able to work really well with you as their boss. And there's a lot of really kind of minute or small things that people usually forget or miss when it comes to working with a virtual assistant. And these are even mistakes that I've made myself and now moving forward put in the system so I don't have to make them again. With the first management mistake of not having a clear role and responsibilities, or basically not having clear expectations on what the assistant can expect. Again, this is a common one, especially when you're hiring a virtual assistant where you think like, oh, they can just do everything, which usually means that your assistant will end up being a little bit overworked, overwhelmed, and not really knowing what to focus on. It is your responsibility as their boss, as their manager, to provide them like, these are things that I expect from you. These are like goals that I have. These are the different tasks that I'm hoping that you're going to be able to get to. These are things that I'm hoping that as we go through in the next couple of months, that you are going to learn and take away from me. Having that clear already of, again, what are the tasks and things that you expect them to be able to do is going to be helpful as you guys move forward. It's going to be, of course, helpful for the assistant to gain clarity on what it is that they're supposed to be doing. Now, you can experiment and like have them test out like different things as long, again, it's clear like, hey, I want to test you out doing this task and these are still your main responsibilities, but I want to see if I can add this to your repertoire or your skills list. So having that clarity again is going to be very important, especially at the start. The second mistake that I've seen is not knowing management styles. So this could be varying from not knowing your own management styles, the one that you prefer, and also the management style that your assistant prefers. So there's going to be a little bit of a gap that will probably need to be filled when it comes to management style. So there's the usual typical 4 management styles. One is more of the micromanaging, which is, the one side of it, micromanaging, you're watching, you're seeing everything that they're doing. It's more of a directive thing. And then the other end of it is more of the delegative. You're just giving them like, hey, this is the goal that I'm trying to get to, get to work, and you don't watch them as much. So that's kind of the range. In the middle, there's usually more of a supportive role. They're just delegative, you're supporting, you're watching them still, but you're giving them the resources as they come up. And the middle of the other side is another style where it's more encouraging, where you're mostly just watching and making sure that they have, again, what they need. So again, kind of like looking through the whole management style, there is more the directive where you're watching them. This is a little bit almost micromanaging. There is also, again, just making sure that you're giving them everything. So you're kind of a bit spoon feeding. So you're not micromanaging them, you're just spoon feeding to make sure that they have everything already. And there's also the style where you are more collaborative. You're working together, you're making sure they have what they need, but you know that you can step away. And again, there's more of the delegative style where you are just making sure that they have what they need, but other than that, you can trust that they can get things done. Now, these 4, people usually think that it's one or the other. This is the kind of manager that I am. But the thing that people usually forget is, one, again, not knowing these management styles, but 2, that they can be flexible per assistant, per the task that they're doing. So for example, let's say your assistant has this recurring task already, they've done it a bajillion times. This is more of a delegative task. And if this is a task that they've never done before, like researching something or creating a system of something, then you might want to do a little bit more of a directive style. So knowing that you need to be flexible on the different management styles with them is really essential to make sure that you guys can work really well together. And speaking of a more delegative style, the third mistake that I see a lot is not having a delegation system. And this is usually where things fall through the cracks, is when you just give your assistant tasks anywhere, and there's no one place or two places at the very least where you can give them tasks, it can really start breaking things down. So for example, for me and my assistant, one of the things that we do is we just have a WhatsApp group that's called Brain Dump for me, where I can give the tasks there. The only other place that I'll give tasks is probably going to be through email, like me forwarding things to her, or it could just be through our meeting. So those are the only probably 3 places that I give tasks to. The most one, again, is that WhatsApp group that we have. The second is during meetings, and very, very, very rarely is going to be through emails. And she manages my emails anyway, so she sees the things as they come in. So having a way that you can delegate and give them tasks that aren't, again, all over the place is essential, because then things don't fall through the cracks. So you'll think like, hey, didn't I give you this place this thing on this other task tracker that we have? It's going to hurt you and your assistant, because they have to check everywhere to be able to get the right information for you. Next is the lack of context. And this kind of pairs with not having a delegation system, is when you delegate things, you don't give them enough context in your business. Or worse, you expect them to just pick things up as they work with you, which this hurts, again, you and your assistant, because you're just expecting them to just pick up things and understand things without giving them the full context. So usually here I would advise that you actually have an org chart for your business, you walk them through, you give them a good orientation, and when you're giving them tasks, you use what we call the WOW system. So the WOW system is basically, the first one is, why is this a task? Why does it actually need to get done? Again, giving them context. O is outcome. What is the outcome that you want to see? Is it a whole PDF report? Is it just a page thrown up? Or is it just a text message telling you that, hey, this is done? And the other W in WOW is either who or when. So who else do they need to contact for this? And when do you need this to get done? Now, some of them is going to be range from like, I need this within the hour, or I need this in 6 months. So you have to have that clarity when you're giving them those tasks, so they have the context to move forward in your business. Again, please don't expect your assistant to just pick things up as they go, because they will need your parts of the things that's in your head to be able to get that full context of your business and what it is that they're doing. Next mistake that I usually see is the lack of communication cycles. Now, you notice that it's not just a lack of communication, it's a lack of communication cycles. Now, what I mean by this is I define communication cycles as set times that you guys are able to sync together. Now, for our clients in 2XU, a lot of what we ask them to do is like, hey, in the first 90 days, you probably want to sync every day. And I know it sounds daunting, and your assistant should be like taking things off of you and not adding things into your calendar, but this is actually essential, especially in those first 90 days, for them to get context, clarity, and being able to know how to move things forward and follow up with you as well. So that's one side of the communication cycle, is having a daily sync of like, hey, these are where things are at. The second communication cycle I usually recommend is weekly meetings. Now, weekly meetings is more beyond the daily check-in. So weekly meetings is more for setting up what is going to be expected for this week. So it could be that you're replacing either your Monday or your Friday daily syncs for a weekly sync of like, hey, these are things that got done in the last week. These are things expected in the next week. These are things that are kind of stopping me from getting to where I want to be. And these are things that need more resources before they can move forward. So again, it's setting that up where you have that weekly rhythm basically of going through the whole week, and not just like going through day by day and not even planning it out. The next communication cycle that I recommend is having a monthly retrospective. Now, this is again different from the daily and the weekly, because you go through the wins that you had for that last month, you go through the things that didn't go well, the things that didn't match what the expectations were, and then to set the expectation for the next month. What are the things what are the projects that they're going to be working on? What are the things that you're going to be working on with them? What might be birthdays or anniversaries or things that are coming up? So then you have that set for the next month. Next management mistake that I see a lot of people make is lack of boundaries. And this goes both ways, is that you may lack, respecting your assistant's boundaries, or they might also not have boundaries with you. So what this could look like is setting times where you guys know that the other will communicate or will reply. So you guys can send each other messages, especially if you're on different time zones, but you know to expect like, oh, they are working from like 7 o'clock my time, as an example, to like, and then they'll take a break, they'll go to sleep, and then the next day they're going to respond 5 a.m. my time. So it could be any of those variants, but you are setting already boundaries of what's okay or when to expect replies. It could also be putting in boundaries of what they can ask about. If there is something in your business that you can't give them a lot of context about because it's confidential, then making sure that they understand, again, giving them that context of why it's not something that they can ask about. Setting boundaries could also just mean them knowing what your goals are, what you're trying to achieve, and you also knowing their goals and what they're trying to achieve, so that you guys can work together, but also having that boundary of like, hey, I want to do this. This is my own thing. Don't need your help on it. Next management mistake that I usually see is ignoring questions or concerns as they come up. And this is something that, yes, as a manager, you probably won't be able to address them right away, but ignoring them altogether is going to hurt your assistant because they don't feel safe to be able to bring things up with you. So what this could look like if they bring up a issue, concern, or a question that you can't answer at the moment, you don't have the capacity, you say like, hey, yep, I got this, I'm putting this here, so then you know that in the future we'll go through this as I get more and more capacity. So it's making sure that they feel heard and understood of what it is that they're trying to bring up with you, and making sure that it can be addressed in the future, and make sure that you do. Make sure that it's part of actually your list of things that you'll address with them, so they feel safe to be able to bring things up with you in the future. Next mistake that I see a lot is not giving feedback often. Now, I added the word often because not giving feedback at all is even worse, but not giving it often will make things start deteriorating as you guys are working together. Now, what I mean by this is not giving positive affirmations of like, hey, thank you for doing this. You did an amazing job on A, B, and C. Or if it has to be something where you're redirecting them as a feedback, like, hey, you did this awesomely. I'm just hoping that you were able to do this and this and this. Or next time, please make sure that you do X, Y, and Z. So it's making sure that any task or project, you guys have a time where you can reflect on what are the things that you can do better for the next time. Another mistake that I usually see is not providing training. So what I mean by this is not being able to give them a pathway of what are different skills that you're hoping that they learn, what are the soft skills that they need to get better at, so then they're constantly growing themselves as they're in your business. This doesn't have to be a full plan that you have for them. It can be as simple as like, hey, I really like this book on mindset, I think you should read it. Or it could be like, hey, based on your roles and responsibilities, these are the skills I'm hoping you would learn, so these are now the training materials that I'm hoping they'll get to as well. So it's easy and as simple as that, of just setting up, okay, what are the different skills that they want to learn that'll help the business, and what are things that they just want to learn just for fun, and supporting that and giving them that path. And one of the biggest mistakes that I see a lot of people make when it comes to managing their virtual assistant is what I usually would call a value misalignment. And this goes both ways, where what I mean by this is people usually don't see the value of someone's time and the value of the work that they get done until it's done. So let's say, for example, that your assistant has a task that they do repetitively, which is your email management. In our heads, there will come a time where we don't see the value in that anymore, even though they're helping like plausible clients for you. It could be something where they're helping you make sure that sponsorships are actually processed in the right way. But over time, the value of that, at least for you, because you're working on other things, misalign in your head. So you always have to make sure that you see things, what they're doing, together with the time and effort that they need to be doing to be able to do that task. So again, for example, just email management, because that's a simple thing in your head, but in reality, they're filtering things for you. They're unsubscribing to subscriptions you don't even really want to see. They're making sure that you're only seeing the important stuff. And again, we'll take that for granted later on as we kind of get used to it. So you have to always keep in mind to align what is the value, again, of the time and the effort, and of course the value of having this task done and not on your plate with your assistant. So then you can always keep in mind of like, hey, they're doing all of these amazing things for me, and you can add that to the feedback that you'll give to them. Now, if you guys like this video, make sure to hit the thumbs up button right there and comment below what are different mistakes that you've made as a manager when it comes to working with your assistant or a team member. And if you still haven't yet, make sure to hit the subscribe button right there so don't miss any of my videos every Sunday and Thursday on how to work from home and how to have a business from home, which you guys can check out those two playlists right here and the latest video right here. I hope you guys have an awesome day. Remember that small steps matters, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.